lifestyle has caught fire, and we talk about the rewards and challenges of it. This is the Wandering Worker Podcast with Matt Lloyd.
Welcome to another episode of the Wandering Worker Podcast. I am your host, Matt Lloyd. The Wandering Worker is powered by Magic Apple Technology, where we've been saving good businesses from bad phone systems since 2008. Whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your home office, a cafe, or exploring a new corner of the world, this podcast is your compass to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of remote work. We'll uncover invaluable insights, share personal stories, and connect with experts who have mastered the art of wandering while working. And we're just going to have good conversations in general. Today, my guest is a friend, Mike Mercurio. What's up, Mike?
How you doing, man?
How are you doing today?
I'm great.
Good. Well, thank you for being on today. I really appreciate it. And I didn't say this last time, but today we're in Jim's new studio, the nice new table and everything. And thank you for hosting us today, Jim. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So before we get started, we like to do 5 random questions. They get repetitive and silly, but we'll see what happens.
All right.
All right, here's one. What's your theme song? And it can't be the Rocky theme. It can't be Glass Tiger or Eye of the Tiger, whatever.
That would be pretty good. Man, that's a good question.
That's the point, Mike.
Right. That'd be great if I was. That's a bad question.
That's a terrible question. I'm not answering that crap. Next.
I don't know. So I'm a huge music buff, but I listen to so much weird stuff and outside stuff. I like high energy, so I'd have to say something absolutely ridiculous like it makes no sense. "Bleed" by Meshuggah. It's just the most ridiculous high energy, just kind of stuff, and that's like my mind going all the time.
Well, that's great. And just so you know. Ginger, so I listened to that and I shared it with my kids and they were all just like, I hadn't heard that one. That was really good. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. This is a fun one. This is the first one I've heard this one. What was your best birthday?
I'm lucky I remember my birthdays, not because of drinking or anything like that. I just don't have a memory for stuff like that. Man, I probably around age 10 was the first time we had like all who I guess would say are still my friends today. There's you know, you build friends over time.
Sure.
And a lot of who are still a lot of my friends today, all in one place at our house. Just it was a great day.
Yeah,
just a lot of fun.
Cool.
And one of my buddies ran right through the screen door, which was funny. He didn't get hurt, but just kids not paying any attention, and he's like, "Hey, wait for me!" Took out the screen door. So it was not as good a day for my dad because he had to fix that, but it was great.
Sure, yeah, cool. Let's see. All right, what's on your bucket list this year?
Get out of the country for a little while. We're going to Portugal. I've wanted to see the Sagrada Familia for forever. I'm a huge architecture fan, and that's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And we were able to plan for that this year.
Cool.
So yeah, that's going to be huge for me.
Yeah, that'll be fun. What story does your family always tell about you? Usually an embarrassing one.
Okay.
If you're like my family anyway.
This was easy. And my mom used to tell this story all the time. And when she was going through some memory issues later on in life, this was the story she would tell me.
She hung on to
several times in the day, and anybody else. It was great. So when I was young and I had my first little BMX bike, we lived at the bottom of a hill in a cul-de-sac, and my dad and I had built a ramp. And Mom was sitting on the porch, and I was like, "Mom, watch this," because that's what kids do. And I came flying down the hill, and I hit the ramp. And I still remember this vividly. I remember I hit the ramp, and all of a sudden I realized, why is my bike out in front of me? And I'm just flying through the air like a cartoon, legs and arms in front of me, I hit the ground on the pavement and skidded across the pavement all the way into the driveway at the end of the cul-de-sac. And I get up, and I'm like, oh, man, ow. And I hear my mom crying, laughing hysterically. And I'm like, what? It's not funny. And she's like, no, it's funny. And she walks down to me and we turn around, and I had burnt from sliding across the pavement, burnt 2 holes through the bottom of my pants, like had just ground the cloth away, and had 2 scorch marks up my butt. And she thought it was the greatest, most hilarious thing she'd ever seen. And she told that story right up until 2 years ago. So
like a pre-hold my beer moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. That's funny.
It was a good one.
All right, here's the last one. This is a new one too. This is also weird. If you had to change your name, what would you change it to? That's a weird question. Well,
Depends. Am I running from the law? Witness protection? What?
I changed my name and my face.
Yeah, well, the first thing with the last name Mercurio would be I'd probably change it to something more simple because it's a pain.
Smith.
Yeah, right. Mike Smith. Yeah, I always liked my grandma's side of the family name, which was Prioletti.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Something like that. That wouldn't be good in witness protection. It's still kind of, but otherwise, yeah.
Cool. So yeah, number one, thank you for being on. You had me on your podcast, the Tails and Nails podcast, which was a lot of fun.
It was a blast to have you, man.
I like to call it the boiled chicken episode, which was a good episode.
Boiled chicken wings. Yeah, everybody's,
if you get a chance to check that out, you should check it out. So if you don't mind, briefly introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about what I need to know about you and what everybody needs to know about you.
What does anybody really need to know about me? Nothing in particular, but I guess a little about me is I have a financial advisory firm. I've been doing that for a good number of years. I absolutely love doing it. I'm a puzzle guy. I love puzzles, figuring out puzzles, solving pieces, putting them together, making sure it's the best possible scenario. I come from a long line of engineering minds, and that's my thing. I also have a beer podcast, the Ales and Tales podcast, which has been a ball, a lot of fun. It came about by accident, which was pretty funny. And then just as an excuse to drink beer, I guess. I don't know, what else? Hobbies. I collect hobbies for a hobby, I think. That's my problem.
What's your latest hobby?
Latest hobby is probably tennis. Just anything that involves rackets I've gotten into throughout the years. I try to stay active, and that's been a lot of fun. My dad tried to get me into it when I was very young, and I was into other sports at the time, and I was like, it's boring. It's by yourself. And now I find it to be like what you call a soft sport, where you're actually kind of playing against yourself. Mm-hmm. There may be an opponent, but the reality is you're trying to better yourself than the last day.
Sure.
So that's things like that.
Yeah, I played frisbee golf or disc golf, and it's the same kind of thing. It's not about playing against somebody. It's just how can I improve and throw better than I did the day before.
Right.
So what got you into your wealth management stuff that you do? What got you into that?
So I had been in kind of the financial world for a long time. I was a finance manager in car dealerships in the auto industry, and I didn't like the approach of the car industry in general and how it went. And I saw that it made a whole lot more sense rather than what typically happens, which is the finance manager is fighting the customer to get a better price and to get them to put more money down. And they're fighting the bank and they're fighting the sales desk to get a better deal. And it's constant battling. And I was like, there has to be a better way. And it all came down to actually the customer themselves, not being informed of what they could do and how they could do things that may or may not have even involved the dealership, right? There's different ways to get financing that most didn't even know. They had financial issues that they hadn't solved that caused the problems. And I was like, I don't want to be like that.
Right.
Because I saw it a lot. And B, I was like, man, if people would just adjust some small things would be so much better. And I was fortunate enough to actually have some money put aside over time building it that I was referred to, who's now my business partner, Dan Stephen at a firm. And I sat down with him and I mentioned what I was thinking about doing and what we were looking at. Let's maybe do this with real estate, pay off the house early, this, that, and the other. And he was like, stop. And he just ran a couple of calculations. And it was so outside the box from anything I'd ever thought of or had seen, it blew my mind. And I'm a sponge for that stuff.
Yeah.
And he saw that and we started talking and he said, you need to come work with me. And I said, yes, I do. So that happened about 9 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's been awesome because it literally is me solving puzzles all day long, and I love it.
You're definitely that type guy. We've gotten together a few times for cigars and stuff, and I always like our conversations. You're a very intelligent person and know a lot of interesting stuff.
Well, thank you. I know a lot of pointless crap, I think, but then there's some fun things too. Yeah.
I wish there was like a degree you could get for worthless shit because I know so much of it. It's not even funny.
I would have a wall full of degrees.
Right. So, not worthless stuff. What's the big thing you guys are talking about right now at your firm? What's the big thing that you're spending most of your time dealing with?
Inflation. It's really been something we've talked about for a very long time.
Sure.
That many people it wasn't at the forefront of people's minds. You know, the government forever had been telling people, it's 2%. And it's never been 2%. But that's, the basket of goods is always changing that they use to come up with that. And it's never been 2%. It's been 3 to 5 to 7, depending upon what goods you're actually looking at. Right. The value, the prices of gas change much more drastically and differently than milk.
Yeah.
Or eggs, which eggs right now is pretty ridiculous, but that's a good example. Just getting people to understand that when they're trying to build a plan, they're trying to plan using today's dollars in mind, which does not work in future dollars because it's a very, very different figure when you actually take into consideration inflation. Yeah, right. But now that it's hit such higher numbers, people are starting to become aware of it who are not our clients, and they're starting to seek out ways to try and solve or adjust, and realizing that my funds aren't going to go quite as far as I thought they would. So being able to show people how to make that go a lot farther is rewarding. And again, it's just information. I love information. I think everybody should seek out wisdom and knowledge wherever they can find it, and the ability to discern.
Yeah. What are some challenges that you've seen in your industry? You talked a little bit about inflation and that kind of stuff, but what are some other challenges that you've seen right now that you're helping people with?
Oddly enough, the number one challenge is people. We suffer as a society. We suffer from comfort.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing to do. And when I say comfort, it doesn't mean I'm happy where I am or everything feels great. It means I'm just used to this. And it's easier to stay here than it is to dig myself out or put forth the effort to change or whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
And getting people to break that habit and get outside of that is so tricky. You see, I meet people all the time and I work with them, and I'll tell them, you're going to fall back into this habit if you don't do this. No, we're good. I'm like, okay, sign this. So I said, you're going to fall back into this habit. Sign that. Okay. And a month later, they come back in, and I'm like, "How's things going?" I'm like, "Oh, you remember this?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." So now we have to, people don't really change until they are A, not only aware of the problem, but B, are willing to embrace the problem and say, "Yeah, this is my problem. This is a problem. I need to do something about it." Right? It's so many people go, "It's a inconvenience," and they just kind of overlook it, or they might think it's maybe a problem one day. And it's the Homer Simpson. There was a Simpsons episode where Homer was eating a whole box of donuts, and they were like, "Stop doing that! It's bad for you." He's like, "Homer today loves it. This is a problem for Homer tomorrow. This is tomorrow Homer's problem." Yeah. So it's kind of like that. But having to try and adjust people's mindsets to get outside of comfort zones. And it's tricky because people are being bombarded by inaccurate information all the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you do that? I mean, how do you, what process do you put to that conversation? How do you actually make that happen for somebody?
They don't like it when we attach the electrodes to them to shock them. No. It just, again, walking through the process, there's the psychology of understanding when you have a problem, being able to acknowledge the problem and walking through the processes, the small goals that you need to take to get to at least one closer step, right? Everybody likes I want the easy button. I want to hit that one thing and now I'm rich, or that easy button and now I'm out of debt, but there really is no such button.
Right.
I mean, less than 1% of people actually find the easy button and it works. Yeah. So the rest of us, we have to figure out what are the next little steps. Like in your business, the same thing, right? There may be big, lofty goals, but you can't just aim for that. You have to aim for the smaller goals that are going to adjust the ship and put it in the right direction.
Sure.
So I don't know if I got myself off track there, but I think that's really it. Is just getting people little by little to understand, and I have to chip away at all the marketing that people get. And I mean, I fight marketing. I don't like marketing. We don't, as a firm, like marketing because we are literally attacking marketing all the time. But the reality is not all marketing is bad, and we need marketing as businesses. Mm-hmm. But it's the message that comes across and what it's trying to do and the psychology behind it. I think when psychology intermixed with marketing is when it drastically changed everything, because then it was how can we control and manipulate the mind rather than, hey, here's something you might be interested in. This is what we offer. It adjusted. That's why marketing departments at large companies and large firms have a whole slew of psychology degrees in there and
Sure.
looking at how to best adjust. I mean, if you wake up in the morning, look at how many different times you're marketed to. Look at your faucet handle on your bathroom. The first thing you see, your coffee maker, your coffee cup, your toothbrush has the brand of the toothbrush on it, the toothpaste. I mean, these are just minor things, but it's meant to subconsciously dig into your mind and be there. And
So, like, besides the coffee makers and stuff, what are some examples or some things that you actually have to deal with from a marketing perspective? Is it like just change it? Is it giving people the like a false sense of reality that you're dealing with, or like what are some when you say you're combating marketing? Like, can you give us more specific example of you don't have to say a brand or any of that kind of stuff, of course, but like an example of like, here's a misconception that is marketed that people tend to believe to be true that's not.
Yeah, well, I think and this is still going to be kind of generic and vague, but you have the option in life to either look at yourself as a business or look at yourself as the battery that fuels another business.
Right.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily mean W-2 worker or business owner. I mean, a family is a business. They generate revenue. They trade time, experience, knowledge, blood, sweat, and tears, whatever it happens to be for them.
They have goals. They're wanting to go down the road somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're trading that for money, and then they have expenses, and the expenses should be less than the revenue, right? So there should be something positive at the end of the year. And people instead are taught, rely on my financial industry, whether it's bank, it can be any number of things, credit card companies, whatever it happens to be. Rely on us. We'll take care of you. You just plug in and we'll handle that. So instead of actually people looking at themselves and how they operate as a business, businesses and large financial institutions are actually showing them that, no, just plug in, we'll take care of it. And they end up being it's kind of like the Matrix. They end up being the battery for the machine rather than understanding that they themselves are a machine that can take advantage of and use appropriately those financial institutions to benefit themselves. And that's a huge thing it's a big paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And when people see themselves as a business and understand the basic rules of finance and that they're either being used to fuel it or they can use the system to fuel themselves, that changes a lot for people.
Yeah, that's got to be fun to actually experience that aha moment when you're talking to somebody that actually, oh, wait, do they just kind of get it? That's that. So with what, like, probably one of the bigger misconceptions I would think that you have to deal with nowadays, or at least something you have to, when you're talking to people about their finances and everything else, keeping up with the Joneses and doing those type things and spending in general and buying things. What is that? Is it as bad as, like, I would assume that is still, or is it more and more people? Because, there for a while during like COVID and stuff, people's savings were going back up, and there was a real general shift of positive in a lot of different ways. And then now, I heard just the other day that now, credit card debt's back on the rise again, and all these things are shifting. Why do you think that is? What do you think about us being trapped in our homes versus not being trapped in our home equates to bad spending habits?
Well, obviously, if you're trapped in your home and you can't hang out with the Joneses, you don't necessarily know what they have as much, or you're not trying to show off to the Joneses. And I don't think it's necessarily people trying to show off, but I think look at all the social media today and what it does to people. And you need the latest, greatest, and you should do this. And look what I have. You can do this too. Again, the marketing thing. And just use my X, Y, and Z. So I think a lot of that has large influence on people. Hence the reason it's called, all those people on those social media sites are called influencers, right? They're literally influencing people to do different things. So I think that's huge. I can't think of what it's called right now. There's a website that it's worthwhile for everybody to look at, and it's the current global debt clock. I think it's called debtclock.org, and it shows all the national debts and all the different debts that different industries have, debt per household, debt per citizen. So, that includes, they're dividing it up by children and everything. It's wild. Debt, yes, the national debt clock. It's awesome. I love it. It scares the pants off of a lot of people.
Sure.
but that'll get people thinking. I mean, when you have the opportunity to get out and about and do more things, and when you're being influenced and you're looking at those things and you're scrolling on a daily basis and seeing different things, you're constantly being bombarded by marketing, Amazon. You know, hey, you like this, you should also like this, 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 and this. You also ought to try this. And because money is so readily available when you don't have to feel it, that changes things. When all you have to do is hit a button and it automatically charges your card and it's no problem, and don't worry, we'll take the money right out of your account, or don't worry about it, we won't even take it out of your account, we'll wait for a while, you just owe us a little bit more. It makes it easier and easier and easier for people to just go, yeah, that'll I'll do that and that. And how many people do you hear that have like an Amazon addiction? Not just to pick on Amazon, I use Amazon, but I mean, they're like every day 5 and 6 and 7 packages showing up at a person's house because they're just going at it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I'll look at like when I was, say, in my 20s, like 22, 23, compared to, my kids that are in their 20s now. Not that my kids are this way, don't get me wrong, but the spending habits and what, because you make more, kids nowadays that age make way more than I made at that age. Of course, inflation and all that kind of stuff, it all kind of balances out. But I do believe that there's more abundance now than there was then. Anyway, at least in my opinion, that's what I see. But I find it really interesting in that the spending habits, it's just gotten, like you said, because of the marketing and all these type of things, they just tend to spend more. And I find that just kind of crazy how easy it is for them. And it's like a lot of the advancement we've had in business is really to more easily avail yourself of your money and your savings. So what's a piece of advice you would give to a young person that is starting? They just got their first job. They probably have, if not a mountain, a large hill of debt from college and all that kind of stuff. What's a good piece of advice for them to get the right foot started on a financial future?
Well, the first thing would be save, and not just dive into. And again,
saving's not sexy, Michael.
No, it's
That's not cool, is it?
No, but what you can do with those savings after you have them that's the nice thing. And if you start off just amassing even more debt, and sometimes it has to happen, right? We can't always end up in a situation where we have a substantial inflow. Right. But what we want to do is always spend below our means. Do a cash flow analysis, do a budget on a regular basis. And that is so not exciting to people, and people don't like doing it. And also it's what's called the ugly truth. A lot of times you go, oh, I didn't realize I was spending this on this subscription, and that subscription.
Because you're right, it's so easy.
Oh man, we are a subscription society nowadays.
Yeah.
Whether good or bad, there are benefits to everything, right? If it wasn't a benefit, it would not become a thing. The downside is that we take anything that's a good thing and think that if some of it's good, all of it has to be great, right? Yeah. So we just amass more and more and more, and how can we push it to the next level? I derailed myself, but yeah, I think what we need to focus on first and foremost is making yourself uncomfortable with the money going out, not comfortable with the money going out.
Right. So
this may take a minute to describe it. This is how I love to describe this to people. Think about the first time you get paid. Every time you get a paycheck, instead of it being a paycheck or a direct deposit, you walk up to a window, a bank teller, for those of you who remember bank tellers, and actually going in and standing there, and you stand in line and you get up to the window and they go, oh, hey, Matt, congratulations. We saw you just got paid. This is fantastic. And they count out dollars. They just literally count them out and then hand you a stack of dollars. And you go, oh man, this is great. You feel that. This is mine. I've earned this. And it's tangible, right? But then you walk over to the next line and you stand in that line and you get up to the teller window and they say, hey, congratulations, Matt. We saw you just got paid. That's fantastic. You owe X in taxes. And now you take that stack of money and you're counting it away. And you realize, oh, there goes almost a third of what I just made. You feel that, right?
Yeah.
Now you start feeling it. It's not intangible. And you know, okay, well, I've still got this it's a much smaller stack of money, but it's okay. And you walk to the third teller window and you stand in line and you get to that window and the teller goes, hey, congratulations, Matt. Saw you got paid. You paid your taxes. Good job on that. You did the right thing. That's what we need.
Right.
You're doing wonderful things with your tax dollars, whatever. You also have these bills. And these things you want to spend money on. So you're going to go ahead and pay that. And you just start counting out every single dollar, one after another, and you're left with a little tiny bit of paper in your hand, just a couple of bills. And you look at that and go, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Right? If everybody was doing that, imagine how different they would act.
Yeah.
You feel it. That's why checkbooks are going away. Talk to a young person and see if they have a checkbook. I still write checks because I want to feel it, right? And if you write a check for your taxes,
oh yeah,
that's the one you really feel. But you have to make sure you feel these things. Don't let convenience get into your head, and don't allow it to modify your actions to benefit others. Pay yourself first, look at yourself and figure out, okay, this is the money I have. I want to keep this amount of it. So the rest of it has to go out by how I decide to let it go, rather than just, oh, well. Because if you have the oh, well mentality, every time you have a raise or every time you have increase in money, you don't feel it. You don't see it. It just vanishes off into the ether of all the things that you're doing. But if you're actively looking at saving first and spending out of that savings to what you're willing to do, suddenly you watch your savings grow. Mm-hmm. And it sounds extraordinarily simple. Well, but psychologically, it's not. People struggle with that.
Yeah, and it's like when you, from a spending standpoint, because it is so convenient nowadays. Like I went to a stretch place, and these stretch zones and these type things you go do. They like strap you into a table and you do stretching and everything.
The rack, is it coming back into fashion?
I guess so. Yeah, like the medieval rack.
That's awesome.
It was actually pretty decent. But you go through this, you pay for this like 12-week thing, and then there's like little fine print that it goes to a monthly amount
automatically.
Yeah, automatically. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize. I didn't remember. That it was. So it was like 4 months, and I get it. I haven't been in 4 months, and I get an invoice, and they're like, my first invoice, and it's like, oh yeah, well, you were charged X, and I was like, why am I being charged that? And it's like, oh, I should go call it. And then it's like, oh yeah, that was an automatic thing. You have to give us 30 days out or whatever. And I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. So it's like so easy. Or like the stupid video games on your phone that you end up getting that's $4 or $5 here, or you've got a stupid channel on Amazon, or you've done this, all these little things that you do, man, all that stuff adds up to where it's like, in my business, once a quarter we dig through our Amex and we go through every line item. We're like, what is this? Why is it here? All this stuff, because it's we have a fiduciary responsibility to do that. It's a business. Mm-hmm. But we also have the same responsibility as an individual and as a household that we should go digging into that stuff. And granted, I don't want to, because there's all kinds of stuff I'm going to find. I'll be like, oh, I forgot about that. Uh-huh. I've been paying that for the 6 months and I totally forgot. That just happens.
Just going through cash flow analyses like that and having somebody sit down and do that.
Yeah.
You would not believe how many times people have gone, oh, I totally forgot about that. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Oh, I've been meaning to cancel that for 3 months now. I'm like, wait a minute. 3 months, it's just been charging you. And you just keep thinking, I should do something about it, but it's more comfortable and more convenient for you to just let it go.
And why is it that we're scared of turning it off even, or just not scared, but like annoyed with having to deal with turning it off? Because of course they don't make it easy to turn off. You can't just go on your phone and go, turn off. Mm-hmm. It's usually some kind of long drawn out stupid process.
Go to the website, find 5 different button places you have to go to.
Drops of your DNA and everything else to make sure it's you and get it turned off. It's for a 99-cent monthly subscription. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we have been, I feel like, programmed to make poor decisions and be okay with it.
Distraction.
Yeah. And that's like, it's fine. You'll be, everybody else is doing it too. So don't worry about it. Right.
It's the psychology of marketing.
Yeah.
If you give somebody something they can easily set and forget, and you know that our society is in such a place that it's constantly dealing with distraction, you win as a business by taking advantage of somebody's lack of awareness of what they're doing, because most people are not aware of all the things going on in their financial system. Mm-hmm. I would love to have the stats on how much revenue these subscription companies, whatever it happens to be, make because the people have just forgotten about it
That's a total line item that they're 100% on. It's like usage versus usage and paid but no usage. And I mean, absolutely, you want to know all that.
We have to provide nothing anymore, and we're still making money because they've
on it. I mean,
not been willing to take advantage of the situation, not been willing to take responsibility and take action. Right, it's the difference between potential and action.
And and to me, there even becomes kind of an ethical question in there too, of as a business and stuff like that. Where do the ethics of running that business come into play? And should we be charging when we know that that's just something that they forgot about? Is there, are we really doing what's best there? I don't know, maybe not.
Well, I think that's why I'm a big fan of small business. I think small businesses are normally started by a passion and a care for something. Most. There may be some out there that are a little less savory in their morals. But the reality is it normally starts because somebody sees a need, wants to fill the need, and then says, I can do this. And those normally only last by taking care of people.
Yeah.
But when you go to the large companies that are so big where all it is a bunch of gears in the machine and the gear just has to spin this way, that person just does that gear job and that person just does that gear job. It's easy for the morals to get ground up in the machine.
Right.
Because at that point, whose responsibility is it, right? The diffusion of responsibility is so great that it's less than 1% per person that they have a responsibility.
Who's the chief ethical officer, right? I don't think that exists. I've never seen that one.
Right. No, that would cause problems.
That would cause a lot of problems.
Revenue would drop.
So, all right, we're saving, we're doing these things. We're looking 5 years down the road. In your experience, or what do we need to be looking for what's coming?
Again, if you have savings, if you have liquidity, that's the position you need to be in. The opportunity for investment is almost limitless. Whether it's stocks, bonds, real estate, it doesn't matter. It could be anything. Starting a business, investing in a business, investing in pieces of business, which is stocks. I mean, there are all kinds of different things. It could be collectibles. It doesn't matter. There are always opportunities to make money. Only if you've put yourself in the proper position, which is good amounts of liquidity that you can and that just means funds you can readily access when you want that are inexpensive to access, right? Financial leverage. Use the least amount to create the largest amount in the shortest amount of time.
Right.
And if you don't have great leverage points, meaning low liquidity, well, how do you get that? How do you take advantage of the situation? Well, then you have to find the liquidity somewhere else, which means somebody else is charging you an interest rate to do it. So you've reduced the leverage. The number one thing truly is people need to save not 10%, it needs to be at least 15% of their annual income liquid. And that just means in numerous piles in different places where you can readily access it when the time is right. And you'll either know when the time is right if you're doing your due diligence and paying attention, or if you're dealing with somebody who is directly involved in those types of things that can guide you in those, then at least if you have a trusted advisor that can send you in these, hey, this is a good time to do this. You have the ability to do this because you're above and beyond where you need to be able to take advantage of it. So 4 or 5 years from now, I think more and more people are going to need more and more liquidity to be able to take advantage of different scenarios. The market is ever changing.
Right.
Which market? Every market is ever changing, right? Look at the Nashville real estate market. It's fantastic, but it's also harder to get into now. But is it always going to keep growing in the way it has been growing?
Way more expensive now than it was.
So now you need a lot more liquidity, right? If you want to stay in the market that you think is going to continue to growing, or you have to go look for another market outside of it, which means there's going to be more time involved, more effort involved, maybe less money, and you can get into it at a lower point. But you have to place yourself in a position of power. If you do not have the liquidity, you do not have the power. Somebody else has the power. It's not to say you shouldn't use other people's money. You can, again, take advantage of financial institutions and leverage their risk by taking loans and using that money, but you want to make sure that you're in a position to not do something that puts you so far out over your skis that you can't adjust it back using your own funding and your own liquidity. So I'm a huge proponent of that, which, for the record, not to give my pat on my own shoulders or whatnot, but I don't make money from getting people to save money and have liquidity on themselves. That's a long goal, and eventually then we can do things. But that's the right thing to do. cover yourself first. Make sure you're in a good position.
Right.
Then do all the other things. Those things, there are things that you can invest in. It's not going to go away. It's going to change. But if you're not taking care of yourself first and building liquidity, none of it matters.
Right. Interesting. Let me ask you this question. I'm sure that most people in business, or if you own a business, or even if you don't, you get called constantly from financial advisors. I want to help you and all that kind of stuff. How would you pick, if you weren't a wealth advisor, if you weren't what you were, how would you pick who you wanted to deal with? What would be maybe one or two questions that'd be like, these are things that I would want to know before I said, okay, I'll talk to you?
It's tricky. Again, that takes a lot of discernment. You have to get to know the person, right? Get to know the industry, get to know get to know who that person works for and what that company's tendencies are, right? Honestly, knowing a person is you can't beat that, which is why I think COVID was such a problem for people, is it broke away our ability to get to be social and interact and know people we can really trust. So ask difficult questions of that person to get them to be open about themselves, their morals, what they think, how they feel, how they take care of people, how they would take care of their own family, right? If they're doing the things that they're telling you to do for their family, there's a pretty good sign there. If the first thing that they're asking for is your money, I'd run. Yeah. Because there are two ways to look at things. They either want to take care of your money or they want to take care of you. And look for those who want to take care of you first, not your money. The money will come if you're being taken care of. Yeah. It's the long game, and very few industries want to play the long game. They want the quick, easy button, right? How quickly can I get your money? How quickly can I separate you from your money for my advantage? If you see that, run.
Yeah, we were talking about that with the last guest, empathy. And that's something that, we talk about with our salespeople and everything else. It's being empathetic to the person in the seat across from you and understanding that you're not there for you, you're there for them, and to determine whether or not you can do something for that person, if what you have to offer is valuable to that person or not.
We're called to do that. I think that's what we are called to: lift others up, do things for others, help others in times of need, and then just make their lives better. That's what we're called to do.
Yeah. Awesome.
So find those people.
Yeah. Dude, thank you for being on. I always enjoy talking to you. You always have so much cool information and knowledge. How can people find you? Let's plug the podcast and also plug you and your services. Where can they find you if they want to have an empathetic wealth advisor that they can trust? How do they find you?
No, I appreciate that. And again, I always love our conversations. We have a lot of fun, man. It's really fun. So our website is www. Does anybody say www anymore? I don't know. Anyway,
go ahead, though.
There you go. I'm not going to do it a third time because I barely could do it.
I'll do www.
Perfect.
Yeah.
sandawealth.com. So it looks like Sanda Wealth. Also, my email, anybody's welcome to reach out to me, Michael, Michael, at sandawealth.com.
Awesome. And do that. We're actually meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm excited. This could be great to talk to you guys.
I'm bringing Holly over and we're going to sit down and have a good conversation. So I'm excited about that. Well, dude, again, thank you so much. And don't forget your Tails and Ales podcast.
Oh, yeah. The Ales
and Tails. I keep saying Tails and Ales. I don't know why I do
Sometimes there's more tails than there are focus on the ale, but the goal is the ales. We like to try to get different opinions on the beers and let people experience them through our different palates and see if it's something they would like to try. But it's the alesandtalespodcast.com goes to all the different sites, and we're on YouTube as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I can't wait to be back on. You've had me on there for a couple episodes. I'm going to come back again.
We definitely want you on again. It was the boiled chicken wing episode was it was boiled chicken slurpers.
It was boiled chicken slurpers. It was awful. It was for a very very untasty. What was that?
It was not a good beer.
Yeah, it was like a crisp.
One we enjoyed.
It was like
wasn't it the low calorie one?
Yeah, it was the Japanese.
That's that one. Yeah, it was a rice.
That was
rice
it.
lager.
Yeah, rice lager.
Yeah.
Yes,
so if anybody wants to go watch that and see Matt now, it was really funny.
Oh, man. Thank you again, dude.
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank
that's
you.
it for this episode of The Wandering Worker. We hope you enjoyed hearing from Mike. Be sure to mark your calendars for our next episode. We will continue to dive deep into the world of The Wandering Worker and just other cool stuff. We'd like to again thank Magic Apple and Jim for having us and hosting us today at his studio. If you're not thrilled with your business phone system or your work from home experience, give us a shout. We've been helping people like you since 2008, and we'd love an opportunity to help you. Again, my name is Matt Lloyd. Until next time, enjoy your week.